The one thing that skyrocketed our wedding photo and video business is client meetings. This might not sound too crazy, but trust me, it is super exciting. I'm going to break down the 5 main points of the entire client meeting. Everything from the initial email, to the calendar booking link, to the actual meeting setup that you have, to the script that you go through on the meeting, and finally, the booking process and how to book them on the call. So we're gonna go ahead and dive into the actual email that you send. So in the email, the number one thing is to only send one link. I know they're gonna ask for your pricing, they're gonna ask for different things, but you're gonna send them one link. That link is gonna send them to a calendar where they can pick a time slot to talk with you and have the actual meeting. And then underneath that is where they'll be able to see the pricing. So the main point is to send the one link because you want the focus of that first email to be to book the client call. The focus isn't to get them the pricing. While they're gonna get that, the focus is the client call. So that's why we send one link, and that one link has all the info on it that they need. So as you can see here on our link, this is the exact website that we send to people. People can hop on here, they see a picture of us, and they can click here to schedule a time with them. We try to open up as many time slots as possible because I want people to have a lot of options to pick one that really works for them. And then underneath it here is where you'll see the pricing info. That's very important. I want people to book the call first and then see the pricing. And it's not that I'm trying to hide the pricing. I want them to see the pricing before we get on the call. It's just people will get distracted. They'll get on the pricing. Oh, we got a phone call. Oh, let's check Instagram. Next thing you know, it's a week later. They haven't scheduled the call. So I just want them to get on the call with us so we can sell them on the best package that we have for them. So now let's talk about the actual calendar that's gonna be on your website. So the calendar that you just saw is set up through Calendly, and then I put the link into my website so it shows up nice and pretty. And on Calendly, you can see here, so I set it up for 15 minutes. It's usually a little longer than that, but I want them to see that's not gonna take too much of their time. So the 15 minutes is really important. On here, you can set up which days you want it to be available for, your hours you're available for. So we set it up so we're not available for like the morning hours on Saturdays. And then we also have this set up so that our Google Calendar is also synced onto here. So anytime we have a wedding or a photo shoot or like just family plans, then that's also blocked on here. So we don't have to set aside certain hours. Our calendar is synced on here. So I don't have to worry about it when we send out inquiries to people. They can just see right there what dates and times we have available. And I don't have to think about like, oh shoot, what do we have planned? So everything's all synced together. So Calendly is who I recommend using. So now let's dive into the actual meeting setup. This is something that we didn't look into for the longest time. It's something we didn't think about. And now it is so important to us because your entire social media is all aesthetic. Your website is all aesthetically pleasing. And as photographers and videographers, our goal of our entire brand is just to be aesthetic. They might not think like super hard about it or like you really even notice it, but it is gonna affect how they think about your brand. But if you have like a beautiful setup, then that's gonna change how they think. It's gonna change like, okay, their experience is all the way up here this entire time. But if you have this janky setup, it's gonna bring that client experience down a little bit. So if you're charging thousands of dollars for a wedding and you wanna be seen as a professional, I recommend having a professional Zoom or Google Meet set up for your meeting. So let's look at the difference here. What if I am talking to you right here and this is my setup? This is on Zoom and it's grainy and I'm not really dressed very nice. Versus here, imagine me looking dressed nicer and all my hair done, and there's a nice background and it's clear and you can see everything. And it just looks a lot better here, obviously, than it does here. That looks better than this. And even though there's nice lighting here, this Zoom camera on your Mac is just not that pretty. So I recommend hooking up a camera with HDMI or whatever you can to your Mac or your computer, and then use your camera as your Google Meet or Zoom camera. And then next is audio. I recommend you getting a little mic that you can also hook up to your computer and talk into. So this is the Blue something. It's a super popular mic. It was like 70 bucks on Amazon, and it just makes our audio sound so much better on the meetings too. So we plug this up, and then obviously is the lighting. Regardless of how good your camera is, the lighting is gonna make you guys look a lot better. I'll show you here. This is the Amaran 60X. This is what we use for our lighting, and we usually have 2 of these set up for on our table for a meeting with just a softbox on it, and it looks a lot better than no lighting at all, especially if it's nighttime and there's not window light. And now the fourth and perhaps the most important topic for this video is the script or the content that you're going to talk about on the video meeting. For the longest time, we didn't even have a script. We just had the meeting and we never really knew what to say, and it was awkward and it didn't flow very well and we didn't convert very well. It was still nice that we at least had that meeting with them. Then once we realized we need to have a script and nail this down and know everything we need to say, not only does it take so much pressure and stress off of us, but it also makes us a lot more confident. So before we dive into the script, I have a lot of key points I want to highlight. I want to talk about the mindset for your meeting. Your mindset is so important for the meeting because how you think is how you show up. So we try to think, number one, I want to be really confident on the meeting. I don't want to be desperate and feel like I absolutely need this wedding. Even if we do need it, you can't show up like that because then it's going to give like weird feelings. So you need to show up confident, just be happy they're on there, and just have the mindset of like you're interviewing them because you want to make sure that you're a good fit for what they're wanting and not from the mindset of trying to sell yourself. You want them to sell themselves to you. So if you want to boost your confidence a bit before the meeting, go ahead and look back at all your past wins. Look at some of the sick photos or how you serve your clients so well and just boost your confidence up a bit. Or maybe think about the weddings that you have booked. It just takes a small win to get that mindset and be ready to rock and roll. So let's go ahead and dive through the actual script touch points that I want you guys to think about when you're creating your own script. So the acronym for a script outline that you need to follow is CHAT. So that stands for connect, hear, advise, and take action. And we're gonna dive into all those points. So the first point is connect. So that is when they join the call, you wanna be the first person to talk. Right when that clicks on, it shows that they can hear you. You wanna say like, hey, thank you so much for hopping on here. So that way it just like establishes you as like the lead person in the meeting. And then go ahead and ask them like questions and connect with them. So you wanna ask maybe like about their engagement, ask about how they met, anything that really seems relevant to you or your brand that you wanna ask them about. And just get the conversation building. So you want this conversation to be about them. It's not about you. If they mention something about you, kind of steer back towards them because you want them to talk the most in this meeting and you to talk the least amount. So you want them to sell themselves on you. So get them to connect, steer the conversation towards them, and just let this be for 5 minutes or 3 to 5 minutes. It doesn't have to be that long, just to kind of build that up. And then you're gonna flow this into the next phase and just say like, all right, let's go ahead and dive on in. So the next phase is the hear, and this is like the info collection phase. This is where you're gonna ask questions that you can gather info about them and listen and hear if you are the best fit for them. Because the purpose of these meetings is not only to book them, but also to make sure that you're the best fit, because you won't want to book every wedding that you do or every wedding inquiry that you get. This is the best time to ask all the questions that you need to make sure that you're the best fit. And also, you're gathering this info, more importantly, so you can sell them on the package that fits them best. You're going to recommend the package that fits for them because you are the professional here. You're the one that knows everything about weddings, and so you want to ask those right questions. So you could ask open-ended questions like, explain to me what your dream wedding day is, or what are you looking for in terms of an experience with us? And just kind of dig deeper. You can ask follow-up questions and just get them to talk a little bit. So this time is really when you just want them to talk. You can gather info and listen. And then you can kind of summarize it back to them at the end to just make sure you got it all right and make sure that they know that you're listening, so you can say like, okay, so it sounds like you guys want to be really comfortable on your wedding day. You want the focus to be on your guys' actual marriage and those intimate little in-between moments that happen throughout the whole wedding day. Does that kind of sound right? And then they'll say yes. So that is the hear phase. So next is the advice phase. And this is where you're gonna implement all the information that you just gathered. So you gathered the information, and now you're gonna walk them through the package and your price guide that you think is best. One tip here is to ask for permission. So after you listen to everything, you can say, okay, this sounds awesome. This sounds like we're a great fit for you. Do you mind if I screen share our price guide on here to kind of walk you through the package and our price guide that we think would fit best for you? And so once you get on there, you're gonna go to the package that you've identified that is the best package for them. And you're just gonna highlight everything in it. You're gonna highlight why certain aspects of that package solves their problem. And you're just gonna talk about the touch points that's in the package that they get from that package. So I can kind of show you an example of what I would do here. So I'm screen sharing on here our price guide, and let's just pretend you're the client. So I could say, so since you guys emphasize the point that you guys are kind of getting ready in one location and then your ceremony is another and your reception is another, then there's gonna be a lot of travel time throughout your wedding day. So you're gonna really want to have us there for longer than just the basic 8 hours, because that's gonna take up a lot of time, and we don't want those to take away from the moments that you talked about that were really important, like all those in between moments. So that's why we would recommend the Dawn to Dusk package. And also because you emphasize the importance of just the actual marriage of your wedding day. And this comes with the ceremony film, which is like a complete film of different angles and beautiful audio. So that's why this is a perfect package for you. And also you're obviously gonna get, and then I'll dive into the other things on here. So that's kind of like what I would cover. And so that's kind of how I would tell exactly what they're looking for. That's part of like the listening phase, the hear, and then the advice. So that's where you're gonna go into that. And then also if there's any add-ons that you have that seem like a good fit for them. So like if they have people in multiple different spots, it's a good time to say like, okay, we recommend a second photographer for you guys. So next is the take action phase. So this is where you're gonna make the ask and be confident and excited. And those are really important to just have those emotions, because when you're going to make the ask is you don't want to sound like you're not comfortable, like, hey, if you kind of want to book with us and we can maybe make this happen, and be all scared. People aren't going to want to book with that. You're going to have to be like firm and excited. And this is kind of what I say is I say like, hey, if you guys would like, I can send you guys a contract with your names on it with the True North package, and we can get you locked in today. How does that sound? And then the important part is to sit there in silence. So they're going to take a second to think. They're probably going to look at each other, and you're not going to say anything. You're just going to sit there and let them think, because it forces them to answer. It might feel awkward for you, but it's not. They're just thinking, and then they'll respond. They'll either say yes or no. If they say yes, then this line is really important for booking them on the call. So you're just going to say, I need so-and-so's email and a credit card. Do you guys have those things close by? So it allows them to think about it for a second and be like, yeah, we have those. So then they can go get it, and then you can book them on the call. If they're like, oh, my mom's paying for it, she doesn't have the credit card here, then just send them the contract invoice after the meeting. But I like to make this ask because it's so important to book them on the call if possible. It doesn't always happen, but if it does, then it's a lot higher % chance they actually book with you. A lot of times people will say yes and they mean it. And then if you don't book them on the call, they might take an hour to think about it and be like, oh, maybe we should shop around a little bit more. But if you're the best solution for them, then you need to book them on the call and not let them have second thoughts about it. Because until they've signed and paid, it's never truly a yes. We've had numerous times people say yes, and then I send them the contract and invoice after the meeting, and then I never hear back from them. So it's so important to just keep that workflow going. And then that takes us to our final touch point on the client meeting, and that is the booking process. So for the booking process, you're going to want to have a CRM like HoneyBook or Dubsado, or there's a lot of CRMs. We prefer HoneyBook. It's worked amazing for us. So I shorten our proposals. If I send them a proposal after the meeting, it's going to be longer, it's going to be cute, it's going to have their names on it at the start. But if I'm booking them on the call, I try to make the process as quick and as effective and efficient as possible. I'm not as worried about the looks of it. I still want it to look pretty, but I'm more concerned about the time, because it's kind of awkward if you're sitting there and you're like, having them click through all the pages. I want it to be like 3 minutes max. So if you come into ours here, we'll preview it. So the number one thing you're taken to is the invoice. So this is showing exactly what's coming in their package so they can review that. And then they can see the payment schedule at the bottom that you've already went through. And then on here, they'll see their names, their wedding date, and where their wedding is at. And then they just have to scroll down here and sign at the bottom. So it's super simple. And then from there, they are going to insert their credit card info and pay the invoice or the deposit, and then they're all booked. That's it. So that is all they have to do. We try to make it as quick and simple as possible, and that's what I would recommend you guys doing, is making it as seamless as possible, making a little flow or workflow on HoneyBook and just having that up. So I set this up for them before the meeting. I put their names, their wedding date, their venue on here. So everything's ready. So once we know which package that they're booking with, all I have to do while they're getting the credit card is type in which package they're getting, and then boom, it's official and I can just send it over. So that is our total client meeting process, from the initial email, the calendar booking system, full meeting setup, the script, and the booking process. Those are the 5 points. I guarantee you if you implement all these tips and details and practice your script and practice your whole workflow, now you're going to book more of your inquiries that come through. Thank you guys for listening. Please make sure to subscribe down below for a virtual high five, and we'll see you next week. Yes, I'm writing my notes on my desk. I don't know why it's so hard to remember everything. I wrote this out. Erasing my notes.